Welcome to Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa, episode number 31 for Monday, November 16, 2020. Approximately 2 weeks after I conducted my on-the-record recorded interview with Las Vegas Justice Court Judge Melanie Andress Tobiasson in May of 2018, Tobiason, on May 13, 2018, sent me 2 emails where she wrote that Aryanne Zappia had made allegations that Tobiason had tried to bribe her to implicate Shane Valentine in the 2016 unsolved double homicide of Sidney Land and Nehemiah Kaufman. As I previously reported, Aryanne Zappia is the sister of Frankie Zappia, who Judge Tobiason claimed was involved along with Shane Valentine and Dominique Thompson, Frankie Zappia's pimp, in the murders of Sidney Land and Nehemiah Kaufman. Tobiason said that information came from Las Vegas Metro homicide detective Jared Grimmett, who, according to Tobiason, was providing her confidential information about the murders. In the emails, Tobiason wrote, referring to Aryanne Zappia, that in October of 2017, Aryanne started to make allegations that Tobiason tried to bribe her to say Shane Valentine was involved in the double homicide, despite the fact that a full 10 months before Tobiason's first conversation with her, Aryanne gave a statement to homicide detective Mitchell Dorsch, according to Tobiason. Tobiason claimed in the email that Las Vegas Metro Police, to include Vice Detective Gregory Flores and Aryanne Zappia's stepfather, retired Metro Police Officer Daniel Dano Giersdorf, forced Aryanne to accuse Tobiason of bribery and accuse FBI Las Vegas Division Special Agent Kevin White of lying. Tobiason wrote, quote, "Flores and Dano threatened her and made her accuse me of bribery because that would give them a way to get a search warrant and listen to my phones, which I'm sure they have done, or they're doing it without a search warrant. But anybody who lodges a bribery allegation against a public official could probably give the police probable cause to issue a search warrant, for the FBI is investigating it because they have the statement that was given to their agent that validates everything I have been saying, and so it would be a little disingenuous for them to do an investigation. But I'm sure they didn't provide that information to Metro when she made the allegation," unquote. Refer to the screenshots to view the 2 Tobiason emails that she sent to me in May of 2018, in which Tobiason makes other claims that I have previously reported on. In February of 2019, I conducted an on-the-record recorded interview with Aryanne Zappia. As I previously reported, Aryanne Zappia had reached out to Connie Land after the murders. Aryanne Zappia is an ex-addict and former prostitute who was in the game for about 6 months. She was upfront with me on that. She has since moved on with her life. In November of 2017, Aryanne Zappia testified against her former pimp, Anthony Galassi, also known as Frost and Frost the Legend. In my lingo, I call him a scumbag. The following are excerpts from my May 2019 interview with Aryanne, where she discusses the prostitution business and her contact with Judge Tobiason, the bribe, FBI Special Agent Kevin White, a.k.a. Jason, and Las Vegas Metro Police detectives. I will have some closing comments later. And now the interview.
Sorry about that, but yeah, no, I have no problem with any. I prefer any conversation to be on the record, just so there is no discrepancy in anything that I have said. And for 2, I would like everything recorded because, God forbid, anything ever happened to me. I want to know that somebody else knew what was going on. Well, now we get to October in my time frame. It's October for me, beginning of October, and I'm at work one day. I worked at a Hacienda car wash in North Las Vegas. It was at that time called Showtime, but now it's called Hacienda. And I do the DMV services there, and I get a call from Connie while I'm at work. And she's asking me a couple questions, and I don't remember exactly what the questions were. And all of a sudden, I hear someone tell me to stop talking. And I'm like, wait, stop talking. And it's not Connie's voice, like, I stopped talking. And she's like, I'm not going to tell you who I am. I have a couple questions for you. You can trust me. And Connie's like, yeah, you can trust her. All of this. And again, did not know who I was speaking to at this time. And that happened for a couple weeks, or no, like maybe a week and a half. I'm talking to this person, which sounds fucking insane when I say these things out loud. So I didn't know who the hell I was talking to. I didn't know her name. I don't remember what she went by. Master of Puppets is what I know. So that was the nickname that she had, was Master of Puppets. And that's what she referred to herself as. And I can't trust her at this time because nothing has happened for me. I have Greg Flores who tells me they're still working so hard to find Frost, but nothing's coming of it. And I'm very clear about that with everyone. The police department, it doesn't matter who the fuck I talk to. I don't trust you. That's why I've never done a news interview. I don't fucking trust you. I don't know you. So finally, I can't remember. It was like October 11th, October 10th. She tells me, if I can get Frost arrested, and she refers to him as Frost, can you trust me? I said, if you have the kind of fucking magical power to get Frost arrested, then you have my 100% trust, because then you're obviously someone who can do something. When I say the next fucking day, I got a phone call from Greg Flores, who tells me, we found Frost, he's been arrested, we're having him extradited to Vegas. Literally the next fucking day. Now, it's literally a year since I opened my case, and the day before, this mystery woman tells me she can have him arrested with one phone call. One phone call is what she tells me. And I said, if you can make that happen, then I'll trust you. So she does it. And Flores calls me, and he tells me Frost is on his way to Vegas, and now we need to buckle down, and we're going to be going to court. And I was like, holy shit, she fucking did it. So I call her, and I let her know, hey, thank you, because he's been arrested. And she said, all it took was one phone call.
And who are we talking about now? Who is this person?
Melanie Tobiasson. And so he gets arrested, and now that I feel like I can 100% trust her, I decide, I'll officially meet you, no problem. You know, up until this point, she's offering to pay to get my car fixed. She's offering to pay for my son's birthday party, all these things. And I don't know this woman. I've never met her. I don't know her name. I know her as Master of Puppets, but she knows everything about me. She has literally told me my life story in a paperwork nutshell that she could see. And I have no idea how she knows all these things, but she knows more about me than I've ever told anybody. So it's impressive. And so I finally agree to meet with her, and she asks me where we can meet. And I tell her that I, at that time, lived close to Boca Park, and because my car was so fucking damaged, I didn't want to drive very far. So if we could meet somewhere in Boca Park, well, there's a sushi restaurant. I don't remember what it's called now. Yeah, so I meet her in the sushi restaurant, and no, I met Kevin White the next day. I didn't meet her before Kevin White. I met him the next day. Because she told me about him at the restaurant. Oh, no, you're right. I did meet Kevin White before. Okay, so it was a Saturday. I met Kevin White days before I met Melanie Tobiasson.
Who's Kevin White?
Kevin White's a FBI agent who at that time actually told me his name was Jason. He sat down with me. He flashed a badge.
How did you meet him, Ari?
So Melanie, before I knew who she was, she told me that she had a friend who was able to make the phone call that got Frost arrested. And he's a good guy. He could be trusted. She didn't tell me at that time he was an FBI agent, but that he is the reason that Frost was able to get arrested and that I could trust him. And, of course, now I 100% trust her judgment. And it was the day before I met with Melanie that I met with Kevin. So we sit down at a Starbucks on.
Let me interject something here. How did you know he was an FBI agent?
I actually didn't know he was an FBI agent until we sat down because he quickly flashed a badge. He told me his name was Jason and that he worked for the FBI. I've never met with an FBI agent prior to this, so I don't know what I'm looking for. Growing up as a cop kid, I assume a badge is a badge. I don't fucking know now I do. But at that time, I don't know what a real FBI badge is. We're meeting at a public place. I'm assuming it's all fine and dandy. This woman just made it possible for Frost to get arrested. I have nothing but trust in this entire situation. So I sit down with, at that time, I believe his name to be Jason. But Kevin White, I sit down with him, and I'll get to how I knew Kevin White's name in a little bit. But I sit down with him, and the entire time he's asking me about my addiction. And he's letting me know that when my case goes to court, that it's not going to stand because I'm an addict. And even though I'm in recovery because I was in active addiction when I was a prostitute, that my testimony won't mean anything because they will use the fact that I'm an addict against me. So his exact words were, there's no point in testifying. And I felt so fucking discouraged and so let down. And he told me that day, I could not trust Greg Flores, that he was shady. And Melanie had told me a couple times prior to this, when I didn't know she was Melanie, that Greg was corrupt and different cops were corrupt, but in my specific instance, that I couldn't trust Greg Flores. He was shady and he did not want to arrest Frost, and he's on the payroll of, so many different things were going on, and just basically that I couldn't trust him. And they let me know before it even happened that Frost was going to walk. They both told me that. And they told me it would be safer for me, Melanie, as well, after when I met her that night. She told me there is no point in me testifying because he's going to walk, and then he's going to know that I spoke against him and he's going to try and kill me. But they both tried to warn me not to do it because they were going to let him go, but I did it anyways.
And we're talking about here Judge Melanie Tobiasson.
Yeah, Judge Melanie Tobiasson and Kevin White.
The special agent from the FBI.
Yeah, they both told me not to go and testify, not because they didn't want to see him get arrested, but because they knew he was going to walk. They both warned me, and I will honestly say they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong at all. So I met with Jason or Kevin White, and he tells me,
what were you going to testify against Galassi for? What did he do to you that they were going to? In other words, what was the case against Galassi that you had to testify against?
It was a first-degree kidnapping and human trafficking of an adult.
And that was you?
Me, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they, through the course of all of this whole year that's unraveling, Detective Flores and everybody, they're kind of riding my ass about I've opened this case, and so many times girls open cases and they don't show up and testify, and they never specifically use the words wasting their time, but they very much insinuated that, there's a good possibility that I'm not going to show up and testify, and without my testimony, he walks. And I made it very, very clear to these motherfuckers that I was going to be there and I was going to testify no matter what. Now, we fast forward back to where we were at in October, and I've met with Kevin White now. He's got me completely discouraged. Then the next day, I meet with Judge Tobiason at the sushi restaurant. Yeah, and Kevin White Melanie had told Connie, and I was on the phone for the conversation, that the FBI had picked up Sydney's case and they were investigating it, and it was, going to get solved now. And Melanie spit out all these accusations, and most of them I didn't hear, but the ones I did hear was Melanie saying that they had DNA evidence of Damo in the guest bedroom, or in the guest bathroom sink of Sydney's apartment. And that was what I heard. There's a lot of other things that Melanie said, but I'm not going to speak on them because they aren't things that were directly said to me. They were said to Connie, but Melanie said a lot of accusations. So my sister, in the course of 2017, my 16-year-old sister, Taylor Giersdorf, she commits suicide in Tooele, Utah, shoots herself in the head, and in her car in front of a what's called the Lookout in Tooele, which is a beautiful little scenery area that overlooks water. And my 16-year-old sister committed suicide. Well, Melanie, once we got in contact, October of 2017, she told me that my sister did not commit suicide, that my sister was murdered as a repercussion for my stepdad Dano's actions. And
okay, let's stop there. What was she talking? What actions by Dano? What is she talking about?
I don't know.
Okay.
She never specified anything. The one thing that Melanie did go on to say many times. So Melanie's brother, Mike, Mike Andress, he committed suicide. I think like 19 years ago, maybe 20 years ago now, and oddly, the police officer that responded to her brother's suicide was my stepdad, Dano.
Okay.
My stepdad told me this story just recently. He did tell me he was the responding police officer, which does confirm what Melanie said, because Melanie did tell me that my stepdad responded to it, and she also told me that she didn't think that my stepdad properly investigated the death, that they too quickly ruled it a suicide when no one commits suicide and shoots themselves twice in the face, that she believed her brother was murdered. And that was Melanie's exact words to me with Connie present. And I was very bothered by that statement because I do not know. I do not know that my stepdad would ever do that. And my stepdad was very upset when he told me that, because my stepdad actually went on to tell me that before he responded to that 911 call, my stepdad used to go out and party with Melanie, her brother, all of them. They all partied together. They would all get drunk and they would all have a good time. And Mike was always, my stepdad's exact words were, Mike was always the life of the party. He had his dad's money because his dad owned at that time Las Vegas Paving, and he would give everybody money and buy everybody drinks, and they'd go to strip clubs, and Mike would pay for everybody to get lap dances. And my stepdad's exact words were, Mike was just the life of the party.
How did your dad ever tell you how he first met Melanie or her brother? How did he meet them? You know?
He told me that he met Melanie. She was a detective, or I think he said a detective or a district attorney. I can't remember what he said she was. But that he met her through at her brother's wedding. I guess Mike invited my stepdad to the wedding, and that was the first time he met Melanie, was at Mike's wedding.
Okay.
And I've always thought that ever since I sat down, so fast forward a little bit. I sat down with Melanie after she spit out all these accusations, and I'm under the impression she got Frost arrested, which I actually, through my own investigation, calling San Francisco, found out that it was actually just a fluke event that Frost got arrested. He was actually picked up by San Francisco Police Department for committing a different crime. And through looking into where he was, they were able to find out that he was in jail and then have him extradited here. They were never notified that he was in jail, but he got picked up for a separate crime. But at that time, I believed that what this mystery person, now known to be Melanie, was telling me was the truth. I sat down with her. I met with her at a sushi restaurant. I brought my son, and we're sitting down. She orders garlic edamame, and she orders a couple sushi rolls. I just got a drink. We're talking for a little bit, and then she pulls out this wad of cash, and she puts it back in her purse. And she's like, she puts her arms on the table. She's a real petite person, really, really, really small person with big lips. And she puts her arms on the table, and she's like, I have to ask you something. She's like, I admire what you've done. I've looked at the cases. I've read what you've written. I admire what you've done, and I want to make that very clear. And I was like, oh, thank you. I'm like, it's not for admiration or to seem like a hero. It's just a matter of trying to right some wrongs and do right by somebody that never wronged me. Being a voice for someone that doesn't have a voice anymore. And living that lifestyle, and I'm not at all saying that Sydney lived that lifestyle, but being a victim of that. And I've never victimized myself. I don't sit and say I'm a victim, but in theory, in this situation, that's what I'm classified as when it comes to Anthony. I'm like, I just don't want to see, if I could prevent somebody else from going through this, I want to. And I'm not ready right now, but I hope one day I can share my story and people can know that regardless of what people are going to say about them, they're not alone and there's someone that believes in them. And I can be that person. I just don't know how to go about it because of my own background. And who wants to listen to a recovering addict/prostitute? No one wants to hear from me. She's like, I do. And this is what I want you to do. Money's not an issue, but I know it is for you. You're a struggling single mom. I have the means to make your worries, your struggles go away. All I need you to do is go down to homicide, tell them that because you were fresh off of drugs and you didn't have a complete clear mentality, that you want to not change your story, but recant on it. And that's what she tells me.
Jesus
and
Christ.
I will tell you what to say and what to do, and I'll give you the money to do it. And I looked her dead in her face, and I told her, I said, do you understand what changing my story means? It means I lied.
Right.
And that means that I'm not sure of anything I said, and they're not going to believe me. They didn't even believe me the first time I went in. They're not going to believe me now. And the little hamster in my head gets going, and now I'm kind of scared. And I tell myself, don't say anything too crazy. Hold on. Just tell her that you'll think about it, and you'll let her know. And that's exactly what I said, and I ended our meeting, and I told her, I was like, it's getting late. I need to take my son home. I got to give him a bath, get him in bed. I do have work in the morning, because I did. I'll let you know, this is a lot to ask of me. I'm going to think about it. Before I leave, we're standing outside right in between the sushi restaurant and the ice cream store. It's like a yogurt store, ice cream shop thing next door. We're standing at the table right in front of it. And she's like, you can't tell anyone, including Connie, we had this conversation. And I told her I wouldn't.
And what was it that she wanted you to change? What's the testimony she wanted you to change?
She never told me. She told me that once I accepted the money, that she would tell me what it was that she wanted me to say. I never accepted the money, so I never knew what she wanted me to say.
Do you think it had something to do with Galassi or somebody else?
Oh, no. What she wanted, the only thing she did tell me is she wanted me to change, saying that I don't believe that Shane Valentine had involvement, and to tell them that I knew Shane had involvement, and she would give me the reasons why.
Okay.
Because my original statement was never that Shane was innocent, but that I didn't believe that Shane killed them. That was and I still stick to that. That was my statement. I have not changed that theory. I do not believe that he's innocent by any means or any fraction of the imagination, but I don't believe that he killed them, because he had numerous opportunities to do so, including the day that he threatened to kill them, and he didn't.
You think he could have ordered somebody to kill them? Or that would be speculation.
I do.
You think he ordered somebody to do it?
I wouldn't necessarily say ordered, but I think he had information on other people that Neo may have. Because the reality is, Shane is not a smart criminal. Neo's so young, he's not a smart criminal. And there is proof that Donald was doing the home invasions with them. They're not smart enough criminals to pull it off. Now, if Neo did Shane dirty and kept things from him, that would mean that Shane was they've been doing home invasions together plenty of times. So there's a possibility that maybe Shane had information that Neo had come up on other individuals that were equally or more dangerous and shady than Shane Valentine. And if Shane had that information and Neo was not willing to give Shane what he wanted, and they would have never let Shane in the house after he just pulled a gun on them and threatened to kill them, and he has now shot up Neo's mother's house, they would have never let him inside. But if Shane had information that he could provide to another individual to get Neo knocked off, and by knocked off, killed, because of wronging other more dangerous individuals, then Shane would have most definitely done that out of spite.
Okay.
And out of pure anger and frustration. Because if Neo fucked over Shane, then Neo fucked over other individuals, and that's the reality of the situation. He's 19 years old. He's trying to get his feet wet. He's trying to make a name for himself. That's just the way the game goes. That's just what they do. I learned from having Frost as my pimp, the one thing that every pimp says, and I have been around Frost and his other pimp friends, they all say that pimps don't have friends in the game. They have family, people that they kick it with, but there are no friends in the game. Your circle is you and your bitches, and that's what a pimp would say. It's you and your bitches. You don't have friends. There's people you kick it with. There's like-minded individuals, but it's you and your team, and that's what it's called. That's why you're a team. That's why they're your pimp. That's why you're their bitch. Like, it's a team. You're a team, and you're all that matters to each other, because you're making money for him. He's living off you. He's supposed to be building you up, etc. It's you guys against everybody else, and every pimp says that. So in the technicalities of the game, Shane and Neo may have been doing shit together, but they weren't friends. You don't have friends in the game. Family doesn't matter. I learned that from me and my sister. Blood doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Your loyalty to your pimp and your bitches is your only loyalty. There is no other loyalty. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And that's how dangerous the game is, and that's why it goes so south so quick, and that's why these pimps instill fear in these women, because you are their source of income, their shelter, their food in their stomachs, their means to survival, and they instill fear so you don't leave. The fear of leaving is what they instill in you. You don't want to leave, because what are they going to do to you? And if they have no loyalty to you and you're everything to them that allows them to be who they are, they don't have loyalty to anybody. So her wanting me to recant a statement that I've already given that they already didn't believe from the beginning was unfathomable for me, and no amount of money would make me do the wrong thing. And I already did the wrong thing for money, and that was prostitution. I will not take a dollar amount to go against my better judgment. I've now already put my life in jeopardy. I'm not putting it further in jeopardy by changing my statement and having police officers think I'm a compulsive fucking crazy person.
Right. Okay.
So that night I leave the sushi restaurant. I get in my car.
And
I wait till I see.
let's go back just so we know. What year and month are we talking about when that meeting with the judge
This
happened?
is October of 2017.
Okay.
I leave. I'm sorry, I don't leave. I get in my car, or my son in the car. I get in the car. I wait till I see Melanie leave. I get on my phone, and I call Connie. And because, again, the original point of contact for Melanie to even have my number to begin with was Connie. And so I call Connie, and I ask her, hold on, I'm talking. Okay, well, don't spin. I call her, and I ask her, I'm like, hey, I have a question for you. How well can you trust the judge? And she says, oh, I trust her. I said, well, I don't. And I did not, at that time, I did not tell Connie about the bribe. It wasn't until months later that the bribe even came out, and I wasn't even the one who told Connie. Criminal intelligence was, and I'll get to how that came about. But I tell Connie, I'm like, I don't trust her at all. And I find it very weird that she knows all this information on me, but she doesn't know my dad or my stepdad. So at this time, in our prior conversation, she has led me to believe that she does not know my stepdad. She doesn't know him from anyone. The only reason she even knows him is supposedly because I've mentioned that he's my stepdad. And that's it. Well, I tell Connie,
let me interrupt you for a second. We're talking about Judge Melanie Andress Tobiasson, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And so she tells me she doesn't know him, nothing like that. And, but the whole time, she's telling me he was a crooked cop. And we've had so many conversations, and she's talked so much shit about so many different cops and sergeants and sheriffs and people like I don't even know or have had no involvement with in my own personal case. Now, I've heard these names because of Connie, but again, they're not, in terms of what I'm telling you, they're nothing that besides Greg Flores and my stepdad, they are not individuals that directly had anything to do with me. I'm talking Sheriff Lombardo, just different individuals that I have never personally had to deal with or have any knowledge of. She mentions that Dosh is crooked and all of this, but that Grimmett can be trusted. And, she's going through all these different names of district attorneys and all these different people that can't be trusted. Now, again, I haven't gone to court yet. They're different individuals I've never heard of. I don't know anything about it. And I have now turned my back on Greg Flores, the detective on my case. And now we're weeks away from when I'm supposed to go to trial the end of November. Preliminary hearing the end of November. And I know it's coming. And I have turned my back on Greg Flores because I have now been led to believe by who I now know to be the judge that I can't trust him. He's horrible. He's shady. He's not trying to solve it. That's why he's been, just running amok and doing whatever it is he wants. So I have turned my back completely on him. Well, I tell Connie, I find it so weird that she knows all this information, but as a judge, has no idea who my stepdad is. After 23 years as a cop, there's no way that this judge has never even, at minimum, heard of him. And that's what she's led me to believe. Well, Connie tells me, of course he knows. Of course the judge knows your dad. She sent me a picture of her with him. I'm like, wait, what? And Connie's like, yeah, I'm going to send it to you. So she sends me the picture, and it's a picture of Judge Tobiason holding up her badge, and my stepdad's with her, and another individual's in the picture. And I immediately text the judge, and I'm like, you're a fucking lying piece of shit. I'm going to let the world know what a shady piece of shit you really are. Fuck you. You fed me doubt. You had me doubt my own case. She led me to believe that there was people that were going to try and kill me because of information I had. And I did say horrible, and I will admit that. I said horrible, horrible things to the judge out of anger and frustration. She's asked me now, she's bribed me literally to go and change my statement. She has told me my sister's death was not a suicide, that it was a murder. She's told us that the FBI has Sydney's case. She's told me that my case is going to go nowhere and Frost is going to walk. All this shit. So I decide after I get off the phone with Connie, I receive this picture, I'm going to call Greg Flores, and I'm going to tell him everything that happened because he's going to point me in the right direction, and this is all going to get resolved because, again, I don't know how the system works. This is my first time through all of it, and it is a crazy... Doug, it has been a very, very, very emotionally draining 2 years.
Right.
And I don't know who to trust, so I call Greg Flores and I tell him everything, every fucking thing, from the beginning to the end of this communication with Melanie and why I stopped talking to him and where these doubts came from and what she said. And he tells me, he says, Ari, stop telling me all of this. I'm going to bring this to the Criminal Intelligence Division. I'm going to give them your phone number. Don't tell me anything else. When they call you, these are good guys, Mark and Mike. You can trust them. Tell them everything. Do not talk to me anymore about anything that involves the judge, since she has mentioned or referenced me. And I was like, so I can't talk to you about it. And he was like, it's not that you can't talk to me about it. I don't want you to talk to me about it because this is going to start an investigation. She talked to a victim in an open crime that is supposed to be testifying, and she has put a doubt in your mind to testify. So he tells me he doesn't want to hear anything else, and when these people call me to talk to them, and I can trust them. Okay, so now we've opened up this Criminal Intelligence Division investigation, and I meet with them twice, once at a Starbucks, once at a park. It's a black guy and a white guy. They're partners, Mark and Mike, and the only questions they ask me
and
are
these
about
guys
the
are
judge.
Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department detectives with the Criminal Intelligence Division?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it is. And this is now the end of October. And so we open this investigation and we start talking. The only questions they ask me are about Judge Tobiason. They get a little bit of back history with my case with Frost and everything, but they don't go too far into detail with that. Their main concern is Judge Tobiason. We begin talking and we meet, and the first time we met was for like 3 hours, and they asked me if I would be willing to provide them every text message encounter that I had with Judge Tobiason, and I said, absolutely, you can have everything. And I explained to them that she had advised us to get burner phones, that none of the contact was on our personal cell phones, that the three of us had burner phones, and that's how we all communicated, because that was Judge Tobiason's recommendation, was that we have these burner phones. So
when you say we, the three of you, who are we talking about now?
Me, Connie, and Judge Tobiason.
Okay, go ahead.
And so she had told us that they were listening to us and they were monitoring our phone calls and tracking our locations, and they couldn't do that on these burner phones. So Connie actually purchased mine. I didn't have the money to do so. So Connie purchased them at Target, these little burner phones, and that's how the three of us communicated. And the only communications that were on those phones were the communication amongst us three, and Kevin White had also sent text messages and the phone call log. There was no recorded phone calls between us, but the proof of the phone calls were on the call log, solely on that phone. So provided all of that to them. And then they asked me in the second time we met at Starbucks if I would be, and by they I mean Mark and Mike.
Do you know their last names? Excuse me, Ari. Do you know their last names?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember.
And you told, I'm going to some clarification here. You told them, did you tell them at that time that you had spoken to FBI agent Kevin White?
Yes.
And what did they say when you said, what was their reaction to that?
When I originally told them, I still at this time did not know that Kevin White's name was Kevin White. I was still under the impression that his name was Jason. So when I explained to them that I met with the FBI agent named Jason, because that is the name he provided me, that was all the further, and I explained to them what the conversation entailed, but they told me they would look into who he was, because they're not able to just off the name Jason, tell me who the hell I spoke to. And they asked me a few separate times, am I certain he worked for the FBI? And I said he did flash a badge, but I didn't hold it in my hand, examine it, look at it. He flashed it real quick, put it away, and then he told me that his identity is supposed to remain a secret, and that's why he worked for the FBI. And I don't know anything about it, so I assume that to be the truth and nothing short of the truth. So that was he was my very first encounter with the FBI. So I meet with them, I tell them everything that Kevin White, or at that time I believe to be Jason, but Kevin White had said. Melanie Tobiason had said I provide them the text messages, provide them the phone calls, provide them at that time the exact hour of the meeting at Starbucks, the exact hour of the meeting at the sushi restaurant with the judge, how all the conversations went, everything that was said, et cetera, et cetera. So then we meet again about 4 or 5 days later at the Starbucks, and we wrap up basically everything that went on. They now have the text messages. They re-asked me, are you sure his name was Jason? And I said, yes, he told me his name was Jason. And they just both looked at each other, wrote it down in their little notebook they had, and they didn't say anything more about it. They asked me if I would be willing to do a polygraph test. And I said, what is that? They told me that it was a lie detector test, and I told them, yes, I will do a polygraph test. And they said, okay, when can you do it? I said, I have work these days. I'm off on this day. I didn't have a car, still don't. I can get dropped off and picked up from the polygraph test by Connie. And they said, okay. We scheduled it for a day I was off. I don't remember exactly what day it was. I met them at the location on MLK, the Metro building. It was just then. It was after hours, about 7 o'clock at 7:30 at night. Connie dropped me off. Her and my son sat in the car in the parking lot. I went inside, and they pissed me completely off during the polygraph test. The questions they asked me were about Shane Valentine. They asked me if the person I had contact with was Judge Tobiason. Very basic questions, and then they ended the polygraph test. And I freaked the fuck out. I went off on them. I told them, I said, you are not trying to fucking solve this. You're on the judge's side. You didn't ask me a single fucking question about what she said about Sydney. You didn't ask me anything about what she said about my sister. You didn't ask me anything that had to do with anything that involved anything important. You went over basic fucking questions about shit that's irrelevant. Fuck you. And I went outside, and Connie can tell you, because when they walked out, I was still cussing them out. They're like, well, you passed the test, you passed the test. I said, fuck you and your bitch-ass test. I didn't fucking lie about shit, and I'm not lying, and you didn't fucking ask me anything that had anything to do with a goddamn thing, and you're going to let her get away with this. Fuck you. And that was the last thing I ever said to them. I told them I will never fucking meet with you again. You're not doing everything you can, and this is another bullshit runaround thing that I've had to do so you guys can sweep this under the fucking rug. And Connie was in the car when I was freaking the fuck out. I was pissed. I was so pissed because I know that they didn't care. They did not give a fuck. And I'm not saying she's wrong for anything she's done, but there is things that she has said and done that are wrong.
And we're talking about the 2 Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department
and Mike from
Criminal Intelligence, right? Mark and Mike.
Criminal Intelligence, yes. I cussed them completely out because I was extremely pissed.
Have you ever contact with them again, or that was it?
No, nope.
Okay.
I did reach out to them and ask them. We had text conversations, and I said, is there any update or any new information? Is anything happening with this? And they said, with the holidays coming up, we'll have new information, and we'll sit down and catch up. And they gave the same bullshit, vague answer to Connie. After the holidays, when the new year approaches, we'll give you an update. We'll sit down. We'll go over everything. We're still going through all the information and finding out if there's anything criminal.
And you're talking about, at this time, we're only talking about the attempted bribe that you believe Judge Tobiason did you. You're not talking about the homicides, right?
No, I'm talking about the bribe.
Okay. Well, let's get something. I want to get something straight here. So, did you ever take money from the judge?
No, I did not.
Okay. Go on.
However, she did pay for my drink at the sushi restaurant. Like, it was all on one bill, so I guess that could technically be considered taking money, but she never handed me money. She just paid for the entire thing. I had a Coke to drink.
That's fine. Go ahead, Ari.
And so they don't do anything about it. So now we're going to backtrack a month to November. Now it's my court date with Frost, and I never received a subpoena to go to court and testify. Ever. I didn't know what date the court date was. I didn't have any clue of anything. So because I knew it was going to be the end of November, but I never had a definitive date, and I was told I would be given a subpoena. I never received one. So I texted Greg Flores in the middle of November. Was after my son's birthday. So his birthday's the 2nd. So I want to say it was about the 11th or the 12th. I texted Greg Flores. Now, I haven't heard from him since this investigation with the judge began. He hasn't said anything to me. There has been absolutely no communication. I texted him, and I'm like, hey, Just wondering when I'm going to receive a subpoena. Court's coming up. What's going on? Oh, let me find out. I'll get back to you. I never hear anything. Now, fast forward to, I believe it was the 26th. If I remember correctly, court was the 27th. Don't quote me 100%. It's somewhere right in there. The night before at 9:38 p.m., I receive a text message from Greg Flores that says, court is at 9 a.m. If you're not there, he walks. That's the text message I received. Okay, no problem. So I get it all squared away. I text him. I said, I'm going to be there. He said, I hope so. And that was it. I text him that morning. I said, I'm on my way. He said, are you really? I said, I am on my way. We'll let you know when I'm at the courthouse. I get through security. I go with Connie. And right before we walk into Shane Valentine's courtroom, I send him a text. I said, I'm in Shane Valentine's courtroom. I am here. Let me know when you're here so we can meet beforehand, because he had told me I needed to meet him before the preliminary hearing happens to go over everything. So I said, okay. He texts me, and then he walks inside. I see him. I leave with Flores. Connie stays in the courtroom just to watch Shane's arraignment, and then she meets us. I meet with Flores, and he tells me, we're going to go in there. We're going to ask the judge to have you go last. You're going to sit in this room. We're going to let him know that you're here. He does not know that you showed up. He's counting on you not showing up. So we're going to go in right now. The district attorney, Amy,
let me interrupt you for a second. Now, who are we talking about? Are we talking about the preliminary hearing for Shane Valentine or Anthony Galassi?
Anthony Galassi. My case with Anthony Galassi.
Oh, you just said Shane. I just want to clarify that up.
Okay. Yeah. So we meet beforehand. They tell me they're going to go let Anthony know that I'm here. And Amy's exact words were, I can't wait to see his face when I let him know you're here to testify.
And who is Amy?
So, my district attorney.
Okay.
And so we're talking, and it just so happens to be the courtroom right next to Judge Tobiason. And I make a comment. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not one courtroom over. And Connie was still upstairs with Shane Valentine at the time, and Amy, my district attorney, she's like, oh, do you have a problem with Judge Tobiason? And Flores kind of looks at me, but then I was like, yeah, well, I mean, she fed me a bunch of bullshit and was almost the reason I didn't testify today, but here I am. And that was it. And so they go in there, they let him know. She comes back in, she's like, he is white as a ghost. He did not think you were going to show up, and we offered him a plea deal, and he said he wants to hear you tell your lies. That's exactly what she told me Frost said. And I said, all right, we'll see who's fucking lying. Fuck him. So now he's put a rage inside of me, because not only was I doubted that I would show up, which irritated me, because why would I go all this way to not come? But now he's saying, let her tell her lies. So now I'm even more pissed, because he's maintaining this whole we don't even know each other thing. And so we get to, it's about an hour wait I have, because they asked the judge for me to go last, because I did not want to, it was my own, that was my own request. I did not want to sit and testify in front of a room of people. It was more a comfort thing. It's a very scary feeling, I can say that, sitting in front of a bunch of people and talking about a story that made me cry and caused me a lot of grief. So the judge agrees to let me go last. So I wait for everybody to finish. Then they finally call me in, and they, Flores does not go into the courtroom. Amy does, and Amy walks me down to the stand, and now I'm staring him in the face. By him, I mean Anthony Galassi. And he's smiling at me, and his lawyer is about as fucking stupid as stupid comes. So they start the hearing, and they have me, do the standard, state your name, do you promise to tell the truth, all of these things, yada, yada, yada. Great. So Amy starts her questioning for me. So she had already told me in the little room we were sitting in what questions she was going to ask, and she did not at all advise me of answers to say. She just let me know. She let me know not what order, but she let me know the questions she was going to ask me, so I wasn't completely blindsided by everything. She's like, we're not going to go into what happened in California. We're going to keep it solely what happened in Vegas, because that's where we hold That's where we hold jurisdiction. So I said, okay. So they begin questioning, and very simple questions. When did I meet him, et cetera, et cetera. Just very things I've already went over with you, very basic questions, give her my answers. So now it's Frost's attorney's time to come up, and she comes up to me, and she begins asking me literally the same exact questions Amy just asked me. So I answer the question. Well, she starts focusing on only one question. What day did you meet Anthony Galassi? And I said, I don't remember exactly what day I met Anthony Galassi. I don't remember the day I met him. I met him in San Francisco. She said, then why did you bring the crime to Vegas? I said, I didn't bring the crime to Vegas. He brought me to Vegas because I was trying to run away from him, and the only place I could go is here. I did not bring it here. Me trying to get away from him and him attacking me here is what brought the crime here. He had never done anything to me in Vegas until I left and ran away. Once I ran away is when the violence here began, because he found me, punched me in the fucking face, and then told me to go make him $5,000 and he would leave me alone. And so then she goes back to the same question. Well, what month did you meet Anthony Galassi? So I tell her, I met him in July. I started texting him in July. I met him in August. Like, physically met him. We talked for 3 weeks via text message before I ever met him. Okay, so back to my original question. When did you meet Anthony Galassi? In August. But you just said you didn't know when you met him. I don't have an exact date of when I met him. I don't remember when I went and met him in California. I'm sure that if I had the fucking text messages in front of me, I would be able to tell you what day I texted him, I'm here. But I don't have them right in front of me. Well, do you have any proof that you actually know Anthony Galassi? I said, besides the fact that I could stare him in the face right now and tell you that that's Anthony Galassi, I could tell you tattoos that he has on his body that are not visible in a picture. They're not visible from what he's wearing right now. And I could tell you a whole bunch of different information about him that I wouldn't be able to have unless I knew him. Not to mention, I do have pictures that I've provided to. I have pictures that I have provided to the case file of him and me while I was in San Francisco, pictures that I took on Snapchat. So, anyways, long story short, they do their concluding arguments. Her concluding argument is that because I don't have a definitive date, I can't be sure. They can't be sure that I actually ever knew him. Amy's closing argument is everything that they had in evidence and everything like that, not to mention my ability to identify him, would prove that I know who he is and whatever. I don't remember what the whole concluding argument was. The judge then decides that there's enough to keep him in jail, hold it over, and take him to trial. That was her ruling decision. He would not get out of jail. He was going to be bound over, and we had to go to trial, and trial wouldn't be until February. And that was the judge's ruling. So it was a victory. Since that's what they told me anyways. I didn't feel like it was a victory. But they told me that was a huge success, and that essentially we won the preliminary hearing. Now, I don't know. I'm sure you know. Was that considered a victory?
Yeah, they just held over after the preliminary hearing, so that was good.
Yeah, so, okay. I mean, I've never really felt like it was a good thing, but maybe the way the series of events have gone, I've not really had faith in the whole thing. But, so everyone's excited. The Criminal Intelligence Division, Mark and Mike, they call me about 3 days after trial, and they're, we're so proud of you for what you've done. It's very rare that we get someone that's willing to go and testify, especially in your situation, a pimp and his former worker. It's very, very rare that this happens. Flores, he tells me the same thing. Like, you are a success story to me. This is a great day for me. This is why I do what I do. The district attorney's office, this is a huge victory. Everyone's blowing smoke up my ass. Like, I just fucking achieved a Nobel Peace Prize is what it felt like. Nothing seemed genuine to me, and it actually put a little more fear. And I know now why, but at the time, my gut was telling me this is going to go so wrong. And not because I'm lying or not because I'm trying to put an innocent man away. there was just something about all these series of events that have been taking place that it didn't sit right with me at any point, and I started losing a lot of faith in it. Well, then we reached the end of December, and criminal intelligence tells me that they'll contact me after the new year to enjoy the holidays, and we'll sit down and do an update of it. So we get into January of 2018, and I contact, it's Mark, and one of the last names is Wilson. I think it's Mike Wilson or Mark Wilson, one of the two.
Okay.
I contact the Wilson last name, and I'm like, is there any update? And he's like, you know what, my partner retired. We're looking into it. Oh, okay. What the fuck? Your partner retired. Now all of a sudden, I'm like, at this point, nothing surprises me because it's been so fucking crazy that I'm like, okay, sounds really good. So then the beginning of February rolls around, and Flores sends me a text message, and, trial's going to be this month. It looks like he may be wanting to sign a plea deal now. And I specifically told him, I don't want a fucking plea deal. I don't want him to take a plea deal. I want to go to trial. He told me, and those are in text messages that the FBI and criminal intelligence now has, he tells me, unfortunately, it seems that the person behind bars has more rights than the victim because they can and do have the right to sign a plea deal without ever going to trial.
Right.
And I said, that is fucking bullshit. I don't want a plea deal. I want to go to trial because a plea deal, he's not going to plead to everything he did. I want him to pay for what he did to me. If you give him a plea deal, he's going to get out and he's going to do this to somebody else. And he said, unfortunately, if he signs a plea deal, there's nothing we can do about it. So I get mad, and I'm like, fuck you. Then you're obviously not in this for the best interest of me. You don't care about my safety. It's his first real offense in Vegas. They're going to basically slap him on his fucking wrist, and he's going to get out, and I'm back to being in danger. A plea deal would make him plead guilty at minimum to pimping and pandering or something like that. Mm-hmm. Pandering, which is a pimping charge. I'm like, no. So you told me that the first-degree kidnapping charge held a maximum sentence of life in prison, and that his exact words to me were that kidnapping was such a broad spectrum that it could be something as simple as he put you in a room and shut the door that you didn't want to be in. He said that's how broad kidnapping is. Anyways, so he tells me that, and then he tells me, okay, Frost isn't taking a plea deal. He wanted to go to trial. So I'm like, great, see you in fucking trial, because now I'm pissed at him because I feel like he's just not fucking giving a fuck about me. And by him, I mean Flores. I'm super fucking irritated. Everything's going completely wrong. Nothing's being done about the judge and her bullshit. So I'm just super fed up. So I'm like, it sounds fucking great. See you in court. And he's like, I need an address to give you your subpoena. I said no, because I have now moved at this point because I'm fucking terrified for my life because everything is going wrong. I said, no, I'll meet you in person and you can serve me the subpoena. I don't see why it's a big deal. You sent me a fucking text message last time. So why can't you meet me in person and give me the goddamn subpoena? I need your address to send the subpoena to. I said, fuck you and my fucking needing an address for a subpoena. You need to give me my fucking subpoena in person, and I will meet you to get it. You sent me a text message, and I showed up last time. The minimum you can do is hand me the fucking subpoena in person. I am not telling you where I live. I am not comfortable anymore. I do not feel safe. He tells me he's not going to meet me in person. He needs the subpoena mailed. I said, no, you sent me a fucking text message. Fuck you. Fuck you and that subpoena. I will fucking find out when court is, and I'll be there. So now we fast forward to February. He hasn't fucking told me anything. It is my fault probably because I refused to give them an address, but I never understood why a text message sufficed the first time, but meeting me in person as the lead detective on my case, and you can't hand me a subpoena and understand why I don't want you to know where I live for my safety and my child's safety.
Right. So
I'm not understanding. Well, he doesn't mail it to me. And one day, I don't know why, it was February 10th or 11th of 2017. And I get on, and I had routinely checked the jail just to make sure he was still in there because I always had a fear, and I didn't know why, but I always had a fear he would just magically get out and no one would tell me. So February 10th or 11th, I get on and do my routine check of Anthony Glossi, and he doesn't show up. So I'm like, oh shit, maybe they transferred him to prison. So I check all the prisons, I check all the jails, and I can't find him. So I call Flores, and I'm like, hey, Flores, it's Ari. I know we haven't talked in a while. I tried to find Frost in the jails. I can't find him. Why? And he was like, well, he's in jail. I don't know why you can't find him. I said, well, look it up. He's not in jail. I even called, and they told me that that inmate is not in their care. Did he get transferred to San Francisco? He said, let me look into it. I'll call you back. So I get on the internet. I'm looking in San Francisco's jails, all the jails that I know in San Francisco. He's not in any of them. So I call Connie, and now I'm hysterically crying because now I have this horrible feeling that he's not in jail and no one told me, and he's out. And this is only a few months after he's now seen me in court testify against him. So now I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm so scared. And in the middle of talking to Connie, she's like, I'm on my way. Just calm down. He calls me. Connie gets here. I put it on speaker, and he said, I don't know what happened, but he was accidentally let out of jail this morning.
Jesus.
I said, I'm like, he was what? He said he was accidentally let out of jail. We're looking into the chain of events that led to his release. I'll let you know what we can find. We're going to have the CAT team, whatever that is, search for him. We don't know how this happened. I'm sorry. I'll let you know if there's any update. I said, you're fucking sorry? I said, because of this, I could be dead by tonight.
What month are we talking about now? What month and what year are we talking about?
This is February, the 10th or the 11th.
Of what year?
And of 2018.
Okay.
So he's been released, and he calls me about 2 hours later. And now at this point, I am figuring out how the fuck I'm going to leave Vegas because I am terrified. I know that if he finds me, he will fucking kill me. I know that in my heart and everything. So I'm now calling my mom, seeing if I can come to Tennessee. I'm panicking. I'm so freaked out. I don't know what to do. I can't believe no one told me. I can't believe he's accidentally been released. Nothing is making sense. So then Flores calls me back, and he says it looks like he signed a plea deal a couple days ago. He pleaded to pandering. They gave him 120 credit for days served and released him, but he wasn't supposed to be released. He had a federal extradition to San Francisco, and we don't know how he got out. We're looking into the chain of events. We have the CAT team looking for him. We will find him. Just stay low. And I said, fuck you. I said, don't ever fucking call my phone again. You did this, you guys purposely. I said, and I will find out. You guys purposely let him out of jail. You cannot tell me that is a coincidence, that nothing happens with the judge. All this shit is going on. I testify. You guys didn't even think I was going to testify. We're days. I'm not even kidding you. We were days. It was supposed to be the 16th was the day we were supposed to have trial. We are days away from trial. He magically gets a plea deal. You know nothing about this plea deal, supposedly. And now he's accidentally released from jail. So now I have news reporters calling my phone. I've never given them my number. Don't know how they got it. I've got Channel 8, Channel 13, and Channel 11 all calling my phone wanting an interview from me. And I told them all the same things. Fuck you. You're going to keep my name out of the media. This is not okay. I did not want this. Fuck you. You don't have a story when it comes to me. I said, and if you're going to run a story, keep my fucking name out of it. You don't have permission to use me. I am a victim in this fucking crime. And they did. They all ran their stories, and no one mentioned my name. They just said the victim is in hiding, and the victim never mentioned my name. They respected that. But I never talked to Flores again. After that day, I've never had 2 words of communication with him. The extent of it was he called me once I did make it to Tennessee. He called me one final time and told me that they couldn't find him, that they think he went back to San Francisco, and that they're going to do everything they can to get him put back into custody. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. I don't know what the fuck to do. And I never heard from him again.
Did Kevin White know? Did you talk to ever? Let me get straight here for a second. Did you ever talk to Kevin White about the bribe with the judge?
No, because I had not been bribed yet.
Because what?
No, I hadn't been bribed yet. I hadn't met with Melanie yet.
Oh, so Kevin White didn't know anything about the bribe from you?
No, he didn't know anything about the bribe because I didn't know anything about the bribe. I met him the day before I met Melanie.
Okay.
Well, now we're in January of 2019, getting pretty up to date, and your article comes out, and it's Melanie. Well, it's your article with Melanie, to be more specific, of the police corruption from her eyes.
Right. The interview with her.
The interview, yes, and the article throws me for a complete loop because not only does she reference me, even though she doesn't put my name in there, I know that she's referencing me because I am his only other stepdaughter.
Right.
Besides Frankie, who is clearly named. And she mentions, an allegation of my stepdad feeding women to pimps, and all, what your article says about the corruption and all of these things, and references Sydney. And now I'm super confused because now I see Kevin White's name, which I know is the FBI agent that I have met with.
Right.
And that all this shit is coming full circle for me, and I'm so confused.
You knew Kevin White to be Jason. At what time did you know Jason was Kevin White, the real name?
I knew that his name was Kevin White the day of my preliminary hearing with Frost, and Greg Flores told me his name was Kevin White.
Okay.
After being able to do lineup pictures, they showed me 4 sheets of paper.
Who were they? Who showed you lineup?
I don't remember who they were. They were separate. Agents. I don't remember their names. They sat in the room.
FBI
with
agents?
Me. Yes.
What month are we talking about when they did the lineup?
No. Yeah, beginning of November of 2017.
So 2017, FBI agents letting you do a lineup for what purpose?
They have to properly identify Jason in the pictures because, again, he told me his name was Jason. They showed me 4 pages of pictures, and all the guys, I'm not even kidding you, in these lineups, they really looked identical. Like, if I didn't know who he was, I would have easily confused him with every picture in the row with him. Like, they all looked so similar, but Jason has a very distinct face for Kevin White. So I pointed out, and I guess word of mouth got to Greg Flores because he told me that morning in the courtroom that it wasn't Jason, and after doing the lineup that I identified Kevin White.
But the FBI never told you that, right? Only Greg Flores told you that.
No, the FBI never told me his name. Only Greg Flores did.
Okay. So what was the FBI's concern? Was that this guy Jason may have not have been an FBI agent?
Yes, that was their concern because the name I was given was Jason.
Did they say anything to you like he should have given you his real name? Any reason why he was using Jason?
No.
Okay.
They never told me, and Greg Flores never told me anything. Criminal intelligence later told me that they don't believe his name was Jason, and that if his name wasn't Jason, then he needed to, then it was wrong of him to not properly identify himself because that is not standard FBI protocol.
That's true. That's correct.
That was what criminal intelligence told me, but criminal intelligence did not tell me that his name was Kevin White. They just told me that they don't believe that his name was Jason. This is after I've done the lineup. And that if him telling me his name was Jason, if he is in fact, and they never confirmed nor denied that it was the person until Greg Flores told me it was the person. They never confirmed nor denied that it was him, but after, the lineup and I'm able to identify the same person multiple times, kind of confirmed for them that I did not with Jason, but with Kevin White.
When you were talking to Kevin White, a.k.a. Jason, did he ever tell you that he was actually investigating corruption and he thought there was actual corruption in the police department?
He was after corruption in the police department, yes. He did tell me.
He told you that?
He did tell me that, yes.
Okay. Did he say anything about how dangerous it is or anything like that?
Yes, he did. He told me that if I'm not careful, the more I talk, and that he has heard my name numerous times through different FBI agents and different forms of law enforcement, that they will kill me. And that's why I told you he warned me so many times to stop talking. And he said, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not against you. He said, I am trying to prove that the police department is more dangerous than these criminals that we have on the street.
Kevin White.
The one I met with at Starbucks, not the FBI current.
Right. What is it that he was talking to you about?
When he was talking to me, he started out talking about police corruption. He actually told me that I couldn't trust Melanie, that she was crazy, but he also tried to tell me, like, not to testify in my case because it wasn't going to go anywhere. That I'd be in more danger testifying than I would just letting it go.
He actually said that about Melanie?
Oh, yeah, no, he told me. I thought I told you that before. He told me specifically that Melanie, because I was like, oh, Melanie said you're a really good friend of hers. And he was like, no, she's absolutely crazy. She's just provided me information that I needed.
Did he say what that information was?
No, he did not tell me what the information. I didn't ask either. I didn't really think to.
And what was he asking you about? What was he asking you what you knew?
He was asking me about my case with Frost. He was asking me about when I went to homicide and sat down with homicide and gave them a statement. What did I say in that statement? And I had told him the same thing I told you. Like, I can't verbatim tell you, what I said because I don't remember. It was 2 years ago. Like, I couldn't give you 100%. Like, oh, this is exactly what was said, but this is like a basic synopsis. And he was like, oh, well, Melanie told me your history with drug addiction, and that's when he kind of just solely focused on not testifying because my addiction would get the case thrown out.
Okay. Did he ask you if you knew anything about police corruption on Metro?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Did you tell him anything?
But mind you, when I met with him, it was before all of this stuff with Melanie had come out. So when I sat down with him, I told him that I didn't really know. I said I have my suspicions that there is corruption after talking to Melanie, because Melanie and I had talked for I think 2 weeks before I met with him.
Right.
So she had kind of opened my mind to the corruption thing, but I hadn't gone through with Melanie yet the bribe and stuff. So I didn't have the judgment call, I guess you would say, that I had now. But he mentioned different cops. I mean, he had some of the same ones that Melanie was talking about, but he told me that Detective Dosh wasn't crooked, just that Detective Dosh is stubborn. He did say that he doesn't think Flores is necessarily corrupt, but that he has alternative motives for different things. But he was more focused on, if I knew things about Sheriff Lombardo, if I knew things about, Albia, all these different people that I've never met before.
Right.
Steve Wolfenson. I didn't know. The people he was asking about are not people that I've had any relationship with. Just like Detective Dosh, I could never say he's corrupt because he's never worked a case of mine. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. But he did, when he was talking to you, he did specifically mention if you knew anything about Sheriff Joe Lombardo?
Yes, the sheriff.
And District Attorney Steve Wolfson?
Yes.
And Detective Albias, former Detective Albias?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When you knew Kevin White, had contact with him, did you ever tell him about the bribe with Melanie Tobiason?
No, I had not been bribed by Melanie yet.
Okay, but when you're talking to the criminal intelligence guys, when you were telling them about the burner phones that you all got because Melanie was telling you need them, you tell them that you said I turned everything over them, and you say that there were also text messages from Kevin White, had text messages too. Who were those text messages to, as far as you know?
Between me and Kevin White?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Were there text messages between you and Kevin White?
Yes, there was, but he did not, I think a couple times he would, the messages, he would reply, I'll give you a call. He would never text anything. His messages were he never said anything. In the final day, the day I met with criminal intelligence, I sent him a text message where I told him that I feel like he was corrupt and that he lied to me about his name. I sent him a final message, but he never responded to it. And every message he ever sent me was simply, he'll call me as soon as he's done with this, or give it 5 minutes, he'll call. That was the extent of his replies. He never discussed anything via text message.
Okay, so when you found out from Greg Flores that his Kevin White, Jason was actually Kevin White, you texted him back and said that, and then you just never heard from him after that. Is that correct?
Never heard from him. And we tried calling the number I mean, like I did. Criminal intelligence called the number while we were sitting in a Starbucks, one of our meetings. The number no longer was active. The number was completely deactivated after I texted his phone and told him that I knew he was not Jason, that he was Kevin White.
Did Kevin White ever acknowledge to you that there was a federal corruption probe of the LVMPD?
Yes.
He did.
He told me that he told me that he was the head of he was in charge of the look into of the corruption, that there was an ongoing FBI investigation to police corruption.
Okay, and he told you that?
Yeah, he told me that he was the head of the investigation looking into police corruption into Metro.
Somewhere in all of this, the truth lies. No pun intended. Much more coming in future podcasts, including why did Judge Tobiason contact Aryanne's grandmother, more on the 2016 unsolved Land Kaufman double homicide, and my response to comments made by Las Vegas FBI Division Special Agent Richard Smith about one of the stories I wrote in 2019. Follow Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for listening, and remember, blue or red, we are all Americans.